Welcome, Poggers, to another episode of The Pog State. We have only one more week left remaining here in the LCK, and then it is play-ins and playoffs time and getting ready for Worlds and all of that good stuff. And we have basically forgotten how to predict correctly. In fact, no one really with a record above 50%. Outside of one person who is incredibly handsome and intelligent.
They brought Mal back?
Yeah, they brought him back. Yeah, Chronicler came back. I'm Atlas, I'm joined by Dagon, Ox, and Wolf, and we are ready to get into today's episode where we break down some of the trading, some of the swaps, some of the goings-on, the things that have happened here in the LCK. But first, gentlemen, yeah, it's been a little bit rough, prediction-wise. I guess maybe we'll save that. We'll save the prediction talk. I think that might be a band-aid we don't want to rip off too early. Let's leave it there and just talk about some of these new players. Maybe Painter. Maybe how did we feel about doing some artistry on the Rift?
So I'll talk first, I guess. I spent a lot of time watching Painter in Challengers and preparing for Kespa Cup, and I thought, he's a very, how do I put this? I think he plays extremely safe. I think he's a very typical jungler. Like he plays the game in a very textbook way. I think that's probably the best way to describe him. When his top side is winning, which often happens with Hete, their top laner who's really good. He plays through top side, depending on the draft. He can play through bottom side. He's not a Kanavi aggressive, like Cuz archetype jungler. He's actually similar to Owner, in my opinion. I think he tries to play through the sides that are winning and knows pressure really well. He also is very good at saving the game when the team is falling apart, a lane isn't working, he knows where to gank. I think he has a really good understanding of where he's supposed to be at all times. I think the best showcasing of Painter we saw was that first game where he was barely there on time and was exactly where he needed to be, and they had that crazy play with Faker and the reposition on his Pantheon. I think he's a really good player, but obviously isn't going to, in one best of three, be able to prove that he's better than Owner in a tough series in the Legend group. That's kind of like my overall thoughts. I think he's very good. I think he deserved a shot. I think they gave him that shot. And I don't think that he either was able to prove that he should be the starter in the future, nor do we know that Owner should necessarily remain to be a starter. It was kind of inconclusive, and I feel a little bit sad that we only saw one series. Like, I feel like we see some of these subs sometimes, and it's tough because we're so late into the season. I'd rather see subs like this early in the season where there's a little bit more time to work with, because if you do this twice, you lose two series. That's very expensive. But if you only do it once, you lose, and then you just put Owner back in. What did we really learn?
Well, I think for me, if we look at the format, the matches carry over. So even if you do it early, that's going to have an impact on your whole year. Because we'd often see teams with, I feel like you feel comfortable with subbing a player if you get to the end of this season and everything's kind of locked in. But we didn't have that in spring because nothing is locked in for play-ins and playoffs. All those scores count. There's never a low stakes point where Genji have locked first, even though that didn't happen this year. But typically it's Genji have locked first, the pressure's down, Bro upsets them. That doesn't exist. And then in Legend Group this time around, it's so close, so competitive that giving Painter time is risky.
Yeah. And
it has impact. And if you lose that series, the question will always be, would we have won with Owner? And, obviously the team has also been struggling when Owner's been on the roster, but you have to you can't just put a player in and be like, look, win or lose, we're getting experience, there's value to that. You have to think there is a cost to this, will we win? Is this our best roster we can put forward? And I think it makes it a difficult decision when so much is still on the line.
I think what I just want to clarify a little bit. Well, part of what I meant was not that early on in the season is less stakes, but you could do it against a much weaker team. When the groups aren't locked, you could play Painter against Kiwum DRX, and it feels a little bit like you'll probably still win anyways, but learn a lot about Painter. But in Legend Group, it's every match is incredibly tough, is what I suppose I should have said.
That makes sense.
Yeah, well, the big thing that I think we saw from it, and I think you pointed out because you were on the cast that day, is when we had the listen in as they were pushing into the base and killing the Nexus, it was mostly him doing the shot calling. He was super vocal, and that was what we were told, that he brings a lot of shot calling quality. And I think for me, it was kind of eye-opening to see it happen, because you're like, okay, yeah, sure, he shot calls when he's in Challengers. is he really going to shot call with all those Yes, he was. He was the one that was saying, okay, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, hit the nexus, blah, blah, blah. And that was very impressive. But then I also think that means you have to attribute some of the game 2 and game 3 to him as well, right? If he's the one dictating a lot of that.
The Doran moment does come to mind where there was that very obvious communication disconnect that they had. Doran died and the game was over because of that moment, which I think did... you could attribute it to whoever had made that decision. A little bit also to Doran for just deciding to go in and do that, which is, neither here nor there. I was a bit confused, and I kind of agree with what Wolf was talking about as far as like there being higher stakes later in the season, depending on what your goals are, right? Because if the thing is like to just make it to the play-ins and playoffs and play through no matter where you get in, just don't be eliminated, then it's fine to like, once you're in the legend group, like it's not like you're not going to play-ins. You'll always have a chance to make your way through. Oftentimes we see teams that make a deep run actually use that as a momentum builder in order to have better results later on. And so maybe you could actually take this round robin as just like, let's experiment, figure it out. Doesn't matter if we have a lower seed because we'll just win our way through or something like that. Could be the theory. I doubt that is, but it could be a take that you could make there and try and confirm it that way. But I did think it was odd that that was the substitution that they decided to make personally. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's all I'm going to say.
As I think you should.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that one, Digon.
You're welcome.
I often use you as my conscience on my shoulder. And on the other shoulder is Dan, who just wants to talk about tiramisu. That was me. That was me.
That was us.
I just really did want to talk about tiramisu today. It was just kind of the thing.
I'm glad I wasn't on that cast. I know nothing about tiramisu.
Really?
Like, at all.
You know what? I actually think we have some tiramisu on standby. Bring it in. No, we don't.
Yeah, no, we didn't have any left over. It was a lot, but it was a lot.
In the interest of TV, we have one right here.
Yeah, this
This is what I'm ready. Oh my god.
Speaking of things I prepared earlier, let's talk about Sharvel. This is a whole lot more fun because I think this substitution, it's fun. It's also very bittersweet because like as soon as he arrived, they were eliminated because their record was so terrible. Obviously, I'm talking about DNS. And Sharvel's arrival was a breath of fresh air for this team. They are just winning all the time now in the Rise group, and it's just so sad that they didn't manage to get him earlier.
I think for me, there's two sides to it. I think DNS had one of the worst round 1 and 2 that you could even possibly conceive of in terms of game score, in terms of series win, which obviously put them in a really detrimental
It could have been
position.
worse.
Could have been slightly worse. But the other thing is that with round 3 and 4 being so short, it just feels like it was so quick that they got knocked out of the tournament. And it feels kind of frustrating a bit to me that like we had this long period between the end of round 2 and the start of round 3 where clearly they've gone away, they've decided Sharvel is an addition we want to make, they've spent time practicing with him, and they look like a much better team, and they're just not able to represent it. Because if you actually look at their score in the Rise group, they're on top.
Yeah.
They have a better score than any other team right now, and it would have been great if we could see that in play-ins if there was a chance. But I think a big factor is obviously if you lose that many series in a row, and I mean, what else can you say?
Yeah.
Well, I think, and maybe we can get corrected if we're wrong, but they're 4-2 since the beginning of round 3, since the end of MSI. That puts them tied for second with Gen G, only behind D plus Kia, who have had, I think they had 5 wins and 1 loss, and then 4-2 for Gen G. After going 0-2, Gen G's rifled off 4 wins. That just kind of shows like how
Much easier it is to win in the Rise group.
well that, but also
No one else is doing that in the Rise group.
Except for DNS.
it was tough because
Yeah.
they did so many swaps. Like we were talking about changing out players. They changed out a lot of different pieces there on that squad, and they just couldn't find it until Sharvel gets his chance. And now it has changed the attitude of the team. When we listen into the comms, there's so much more joy when they play. When they win, he's doing the celebrations. It's great to see closer smile again after a victory. It's not relief. It is joy back of League of Legends.
Isn't it so weird though that like he replaces Piotrek, and Piotrek was the vibes guy for so long, and obviously like some of that has kind of slipped away.
I think sometimes a collection of players who might independently or in different teams have been good players together, just it doesn't work. Or maybe it's just like the the kind of follow-up from last year where everything went wrong, and that was just hanging over them, and they just needed something fresh to come in, because every player who's been on DNS this year and last, we have seen better from them before. And it's the fact that, like, Peter and Doctam, who are just at the World Finals, I know a lot of people will say, well, it was cousin BDD, but they had great games as well.
They did.
They earned their spot there, and then to come here, and obviously LCK Cup was a bit different, but then to struggle so much, it just kind of makes you wonder who else could have come into this roster and potentially got like sucked into this downward spiral. And it really took Sharvel not just to be like this player who's very confident in himself, to be a breath of fresh air to really shake it up.
Yeah, because just to cover for Pyosik, because this was the one-to-one change, I remember last year with Berserker, who was someone that I kept a closer eye on because of his time over at LCS, they would be arm in arm before the game. Like, come on, man, we're going to do it today. Like, he was the vibes guy, was Pyosik. He was the one that was picking guys up. So this isn't, like an assassination of character for Pyosik. It was just so interesting how Sharvel's the one that comes in, plays kind of similar to Pyosik, where he's kind of fighting with confidence. But then the things he says, like, whoa, those are my world champ bot laners. Like, he's saying stuff like that. And then the quote that we ran at the beginning of this week, where it was like, it was something like, my teammates carry the weight of all the losses, and I want to change that. Like, that was so...
That's
like,
so insightful.
Yes, for a young player to come in and do that, it was very, very interesting. Again, as you said, bittersweet because they're already out, but they're the second best performing team in all of the LCK in terms of record.
He brings such an air of light-hearted maturity. Like, if that makes sense, like he's both.
It's like almost naive, mature. Yeah, I understand. What you're
It's
saying.
like he's able to both be incredibly confident and sometimes I would almost even say foolhardy in some of the things that he does or says in game or out of game. But that he's saying it. It feels to me like that he's saying it because he's nothing to lose. Like he has only up to go. He wants to bring his teammates up. When he makes those plays, everyone remembers the Flash Kiana play. It frankly costs him the game, but that's who he is. Like, he's going to take every chance, and he knows the opportunity he's been given is there isn't really an up for me here. Like, I'm on this team, but I'm basically either just going to be like, I'm in jail, I can't do anything, or he's going to be like, I'm going to take this as a huge opportunity to grow, build my brand, bring up my teammates. And right now, I know this is an LCK podcast, but he has the opportunity to beat T1 and then beat Nongshim to win the Kespa Cup. Like, tomorrow they will play against T1. We don't know the starting roster for T1. It's still, at the time of this recording, unknown. But I just think that the way they played in Kespa Cup may have given them confidence to play better in the LCK or vice versa, because they're playing well in both the Rise Group and in Kespa Cup right now. I know some of the opponents they've faced, like Hanwha's Challengers team, are lower caliber, but they smashed them. It wasn't close, and they just look really on form right now. He is... I can't really think of another example of a player coming in with this much charisma from Challengers, because we've had so many players coming into big rosters of veterans, and they're kind of a little bit more quiet, like Lucid's debut.
The only other one I can think of is Peter, and Peter made a huge impact. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's honestly, since Peter, I can't. And Peter didn't even have the same consistency, but at least he had the vibes, right? You even think about like Shiu, much quieter on his debut. Perfect, extremely quiet, right? So I see Sharvel, and I think this is a player that's going places. I think he is not destined to stay on a 10th place team. Whether that means next year he stays on DNS and they're a much better roster, or teams that have expensive junglers who want to make a change might be looking at this guy. I think he has a bright future.
I think as well, it kind of is testament to so many people are focused on like the individual's play and look purely like what is this player doing on the Rift and measuring by that. But so much of the team's success is about the dynamic, and there's so many players who this aspect of them sometimes been overlooked for like what they bring to the... I think a good example is Peanut, who obviously has been phenomenal individually.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
But like what he brings to a team is so much more than just what you see on the Rift. And I think this has happened, Sharvel's been great individually, but also has brought so much to the rest of the team and just been a massive positive impact. And I think that kind of, it's not something you can always just visibly see. We have a clear example where DNS are really struggling, Sharvel comes in, they're doing better. It's like a clear comparison. But when teams, especially teams at the top, who are often doing well, it's hard to sort of pinpoint what is exactly making this team until maybe it's gone.
Yeah. And I actually think that it's really important. Like League of Legends isn't just a mechanics game, right? It's not just how well you use your hands. It's a social game as well, right? Like you have to, like coordinating 5 people is not an easy thing to do when everyone has their own opinions on how the best way to play the game is and what to do in a split second. So being able to like have someone that understands like the social mechanics of cooperating as a group of 5 and being able to understand how each other player ticks, because I think you do need to have some of them that are just hands, right? Like that is like, because some people are just so incredibly good.
Usually the AD carry.
Often it is, but like we've seen it in all sorts of. It seems like it's top laners these days with like a whole lot of these prodigies making their way up that are very soft spoken. But I think there does need to be that amount of extra maturity and social understanding in order to make these teams work. And it feels like Sharvel is almost hitting that sort of like he has the potential to do the Peanut thing, where Peanut just has so much like calm confidence. Like his charisma was just oozing out of every pore. And it's kind of hard to lose that from the LCK from like an entertainment standpoint, but also I think from just playing the game, right? He did so much for all the teams that he was on.
Yeah, and regarding your macro point, to me, I've always felt like most macro concepts are pretty simple if you're like just viewing them from like an observer point of view. Like you're like, this is what the team needs to do. It's not that complicated. The real challenge is enacting them with 5 different individuals with their own perspective, own point of view, in real time and doing it in sync. And suddenly things that are like, oh, you know, swapping from bot to top, having the timings or lane assignments goes from, well, obviously you do this, this, and this to, oh, we have to like find the exact timing of all these things. I think that's really where the complexity is.
And also understanding how to fix it when it goes wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like understanding that like a bad decision made together is better than a good decision that you make by yourself. Like all that sort of stuff like needs to be managed, and you need to understand like how you can coordinate that and how to assess it afterwards as well, because not everything is about what happens on the Rift. It's about what happens afterwards to get everyone to a point where they can actually go back onto the Rift and perform.
Not to mention, this team lost Odin. Like he resigned, right? Goong's been holding down the fort, but it doesn't have a strong, no offense to Goong, but it doesn't have a strong veteran coach at its helm, in my opinion. And so it's just that simple. Like it's just a flip of the switch. That
You can still flick a switch.
I guess you could flick it. It's not optimal, but
Yeah. Subpar.
But as long as you're doing it together.
Yeah, you can change a light bulb.
There you go.
That's how many DNSs it takes.
it's
to
like
change
that
a
Final
light
Fantasy VII minigame where you have to turn the switch together.
Yeah, exactly. We've had also like a couple of others, like the bluffing experiment that HLE have been doing is a little bit of a weird one. I don't necessarily understand that one personally. I understood before, like you hit rank 1 and all that sort of stuff. Like, let's see whether that's going to translate to on-rift performance. But the next substitution, I don't know. I know a lot of people have been pretty critical of how Delight's been playing, but I don't know whether it's been like a successful maneuver.
I just think this is very similar to what we talked about with Owner just before, or at least how I framed it. It feels weird to use bluffing for one series and then be like, all right, we did that. And Holmes' coaching comments about him both times when he came in after he got rank 1 in solo queue and the second time, basically saying, we know Delight is better, but we're going to do this and maybe Delight will learn something, is the gist of what he said. And I find that to be, without context, it sounds almost threatening, like, oh, Delight, I'm subbing. It's very strange because
they did mention like taking the time to use the backstage to like talk to Delight while they're in the game. Like maybe it is
I just
more
find
about
that,
setting him up.
I find that strange because it's like, it almost implies that Delight doesn't do that already himself. Like that he's not studying his own play or the coaching staff isn't going over plays with Delight. That he would have to like watch it in a coach's booth to then understand it. I don't. That sounds strange to me. I'm not saying it's not possible, and I don't know his coaching style, as much as some of our other LCK coaches because he's been in the LPL for so long. But all I wanted from Bluffing was 2 series in a row, and we might get another series of him, but we might not. He left it pretty open-ended, so I that's what I hope for.
So for me, I guess with the bluffing substitution situation, I just wanted to applaud how much Ohm talked about it compared to what we've gotten in the past, where this specific time, I want to make sure I get it correct. In a meta where the jungle and bottom lane are crucial rather than individual skill, even a bad decision during a skirmish can become a good one if everyone works together and people are to step up in the front. Yes, it was that, but then it's true that they are superior in every aspect, but when I think of Delight, I can only remember their initiating, and there have been recently many incidents in that regard. Since there are differences in coordination and thinking when bottoms are grouped together, it was a decision made after considering various situations. So very similar to what he said before.
Yeah, that's a Wolf comment if ever I've heard one.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I have no disagreement that Delight is much better, and since I believe he will sufficiently compensate for that soon, I think he will likely play in the near future. Like, it was a very comprehensive kind of
Sounds like a lot of words.
But it was like
That is
the
true.
lack of coordinating between Kanavi and Delight,
Yeah,
right?
So,
that
so
was
sort of
what he was
calling
saying.
out the like.
Specifically why. Like,
Didn't he also in some other interview say something like he wasn't willing to die for the team? Like basically like sacrifice himself for the team. Maybe he goes in for an engage but dies, but the team wins the fight. Whereas maybe
Namgoon.
Bluffing was
Yeah,
more
I was
like,
gonna say. Like,
Here it is.
He shouldn't be reviewing their own play. He should be reviewing the bro play. That's what he needs to do.
the only area where I think Bluffing is better is that he confidently steps forward to lighten the burden on other players when facing off or engaging in combat, even if it means dying himself. And then he said, I have no disagreement that Delight is much better, and since I believe that he'll sufficiently compensate for that soon, he will be playing in the near future. Like, to me, he specified what it was, gave an example of, or like, where the coordination was, gave an example of what Bluffing does, and then, like, backed his starter. And I just feel like that, to me, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you want to put Bluffing in, and Delight was not coordinating with Kanavi. Maybe there was a time or two, you can go back and VOD review, where he probably needed to die when there was a mistake made, or he probably needed to
It's
die
really
engage
hard
harder.
to die instead of Kanavi though, because Kanavi's always 5 screens away.
Correct. But in the times where he wasn't, obviously
Yeah,
Coach
yeah.
saw him. And I think that's an interesting insight. And I appreciate that, but then also it's like, okay, at what point are we solidifying it? It's the same thing with Owner. It's like, are we really playing Painter instead of Owner? Are we really playing Bluffing over Delight? And if that's the case, I feel like that needs to be solidified soon.
There's just like for me, I've been thinking about Delight for a really long time because I think we all have this feeling like he's not playing that well. But when you watch the games, it's hard to be like, and it was this moment here where he made a mistake. It feels very obvious, I think, to everyone that he's not performing as well as he usually does. And I started thinking about it a lot, and I was like, well, we're not seeing that much Nautilus. See it occasionally. Rakan, very fringe, sometimes comes across. There's no Leona. It's not that heavy of a Delight meta. Oftentimes you're on the Bard or the Karma, the Lulu. And so it's a little bit tougher for him, or the Milio, oftentimes with Guma playing the Lucian. So it's hard for Delight's playstyle to shine through, so maybe that's a part of this. Because I don't think he's having bad games on the Enchanters, but it's not his style. So he's not making, I'm not saying he's playing badly, but he's not playing at 100% of Delight. It feels like he's playing at like 85% of Delight, and that's 15% less than what Han will want. And so maybe that's part of this.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like relevant or not, but the way I sort of think about it is that if I think about Namgung, right?
Sure.
I think about him like in it to win it. Like
In it to win it.
He's been making like those big plays. Like you think of Namgung, you're like he's gonna be going for everything in
Barrel
lane,
archetype.
trying to like maybe that's why I like him.
Lehens Jr., yes,
Yeah,
that too.
A bit like that. Lehen's another example. Like you can tell these moments where Lehens has changed a game. Today, Duro, like his hostile takeovers were amazing. His Seraphine was pretty good. Like he's had a return to form, and I think Duro and Delight are somewhat comparable. I know like they're both current and ex-Gen G, and that's why they kind of connect in your brain. But I think that like Duro's return to form is there, but I think he was in a similar track to Delight, where kind of felt like, for me, like Delight is just going through the motions each game. Whereas like, the carriers of the world, like finding these huge plays, these huge moments on any champion that they're kind of given, or deciding to pick up. And I think Delight hasn't been able to find as many of those where he's sort of taken the game by the horns. He's often finding himself in more of an auxiliary role.
Auxiliary. Well, one thing we could definitely say is on this Saturday Showdown, if we just took a snapshot of
rounds 3 and 4, post MSI standings, Hanwha Life Esports were 10th place in terms of their record and game score. KT was 8th place in terms of their record and score. They needed to change something. Like if they wanted to change something, they had a lot of reason to, because they hadn't done well since showing off how great they can be. And I think that's why Hanwha Life Esports was under a bigger microscope, because they just won MSI, so we know that they're capable of that.
Yeah.
And then to come back, and now if we just, again, started from round 3, they were in 10th place, like that's the microscope they're under, and we're comparing them to their best, what they can be.
If you think back to previous years where teams had like the MSI hangover, you had 9 weeks to get things together. This is 4 weeks. So I feel like that emphasizes making bigger, more potentially controversial changes to try and sort things out before we go into play-ins playoffs. Because the other thing is that obviously play-ins is going to take a little bit of time that they're not going to be playing in, most likely. Yeah, they're locked into playoffs now. They're not going to be playing in play-ins, so that's time where you don't even have stage games. And we know how many times scrims can be unreliable. Like you scrim, you're like, oh, everything's going great. And then you get in the real matches and it's like, oh no.
Well, the crazy thing is they're going to be playing in playoffs really soon, and they're going to be playing against the same teams that are in the Legend group. So if you're not performing well against those teams in best of threes, it's likely to translate into poor performances if you don't change anything in best of fives. So my bottom line is I hope he plays one more series, and we see what it means. But if he doesn't, we'll see how it looks.
I think the same for Painter as well, right? I know we just had home ground. Maybe that had something to do with it, but one more series for Painter to see, like, okay, what do we have? Because you could win in a game where you snowballed. When you had Lee Sin in game 2, it was pretty idle, and then it was like one big fight. And then in game 3, it was 2 early Nocturne fights, and then that was it. Like, that felt very binary on what happened. I'm really interested in more complex situations that come up for Painter and how that affects the rest of T1. I'm interested in more complex situations here with Bluffing and for Hanwha Life Esports, because these are 2 of the best teams in the LCK and in the world.
It kind of feels like for Hanwha Life with the coach comments, it's like the approach, because I think the standard for most every team is like you play your starting player and that is just it, and that is the best thing for that starting player. But it kind of feels like the approach is we see potential angle when not playing him could have a benefit.
Yes, that too. And he's said that multiple times, which I think is that's a cool angle.
But because that's the thing, is like normally it's like whichever player you're putting in, the viewpoint is like you're putting Bluffing in because you want to benefit Bluffing. And it's not to say that putting Bluffing in is not going to benefit Bluffing, obviously, but it feels like seeing what they can do for Delight as well. There's like more than that to it. So in terms of like, will he get a second series? I think that will just depend a lot on Delight.
Yeah. I do think that like not having a solid roster idea this end of the season is not a great sign.
Yeah.
Either way. But for the Painter situation, I do think that it would be a fun experiment. I really liked how he played the Lee Sin. I thought it was an absolute psychopath, and I loved it. And it was kind of a bit of a breath of fresh air. And even though like Ona's re-debut game 1 was like, oh damn, he's back. But then he wasn't quite back for like the next 4 games.
You know what's weird about all of this conversation is, in the old days, we had challenger teams, or we didn't have challengers teams. You just had larger rosters, right? Like before we implemented call-ups. But then even call-ups used to be like, oh, you got to wait till round 2 to do a call-up. But then they're like locked into LCK. And there's like 2-way players. We edited the system multiple times, right? To eventually it's like now you can just play in challengers today and play in LCK tomorrow. And I think that this creates such a weird dynamic with our subs, where they're playing in a completely different environment with 4 other players, and are so locked into that play style, that coaching style, are not in the facility with the main team, are not talking with the coaching staff, have no idea what the game plan has been for like the last several weeks for that team and what they've been working on, what they've been working on draft. They just get suddenly plunged into a team where it's like, they're like, hey, you're coming up, come to the training facility, you're going to play a scrim with us, and we're going on stage tomorrow. And like, that must be so jarring for both rosters, right? You suddenly have Bluffing in there and you're like, I don't know how to call with this guy yet, actually. You know, I haven't really played that many games with him. And for Bluffing, you're like, I don't know how to work with any of these people necessarily yet. Obviously, you're playing some scrims if you're getting called up, I have to imagine. But like, it's just never going to be the same as if you're just, the driver situation, right, in Flying Oyster, where you're in the team, you're part of the team, you're constantly with that team. You know, I'm playing in game 2, this is the plan. It's not like that. And I feel like we haven't really acknowledged or talked about this, but I feel like the pressure that Challengers players getting called up to play in, especially a Legend Group match, is pretty insane. Like it's way higher than it used to be with subs. So I think that's a reason why maybe they don't play as many games as we want them to.
There is an example of a player who has been playing a lot of games, though, and that is Frog. And I think this one doesn't need as much of a discussion. I think we all can just say that Rich wasn't playing all that well. Frog comes in, didn't start off that great.
Correct.
But has definitely improved. And
His lows were much lower as well.
Yeah. But like the Jax play from Frog earlier this week was really fun to see. I think even today in the series they lost against the Bros, still did look pretty good. So I think that's one of the call-ups that I think worked out very well.
I think top lane meta at the moment, it's difficult just to be that weather the storm sort of guy. Like there are games, there are matches where it'll call for that. There may be a specific instance where like, okay, you're just going to play Cassandra, you're just going to chill. That happens, but I don't think you can always be that guy. You can't just go into a series like, I'm just going to chill out, play weak side, play weather the storm in every situation, because they pick Olaf into you and the game can just be over. Like a lot of these matchups have done well in the Olaf. You have to pilot them well and you have to challenge specific timings. If you don't, the game is just over. Yeah. And I think it's made, compared to like, not even just last year, but like pre-Fearless, when it was just like, okay, we're just going to slam tanks against each other. That is not the meta at the moment. Like
it's
can't remember.
volatile now.
Yeah, and I can't remember the last time we've had like tank versus tank in the top lane, but I definitely feel like it's been a while.
Closest we've got is just Cassante versus anything. But we have had some Orns, but not often tank versus tank. It's often like Orn into Rumble and stuff like that.
And even honestly, when you're playing into stuff like Rumble, like you can mess that matchup up. Like I think if you're playing Orn to Sion, you have to play so egregiously to make that a problem. Yeah. Like if you're just playing at like even 60%, it's fine. Oh, I'm down 10 CS, but oh, here are the ornaments, guys. Don't worry. It's really okay. But now it feels like the margin for error is much more extreme.
Yeah, and going back to that, I think that's been part of the change here at Kiwoom. Like it feels like you, Cal, and Willer have a little bit more help, but Frog wasn't the only change there for them.
Yeah, aiming coming in was an interesting one, and that is going to be our next little chat that we're going to have, and that is a bit of a comparison, as we had another trade, another emergency trade, another massive amount of drama, which is crazy that we had like two of them in the same year, which is kind of ridiculous.
In the same position and in the same situation, it feels like.
And it's just like one blow up within the team, and then all of a sudden we're trading players.
Our region has historically not had this problem. This has been a Western problem where there's a fight in a team and some stuff goes down and somebody gets benched and it gets weird and there's rumors about it. And the West side, somebody will go on the stream afterwards and explain their side. Yeah. We don't do this in Korea. We don't fight in the team, or if we do, it doesn't get out. You certainly don't have trades about it. So it's a pretty wild, unexplored territory. I think the aiming one seems a little bit more aggressively about that. Obviously, Diablo had the very public fan meeting situation, but I just wanted to point out that this is so unlike our region for like the last 15 years and across just generally esports period in Korea.
And it's so interesting, the result of our first one, right? The Taeyeon Diablo trade. So many of us were like, oh my God, Nongshim has just got so much better. Like,
I feel like I was the only one who thought this was a mistake for Nongshim because I thought the problem was the solo laners. But when Diablo came in, I was like, okay, they'll play through Diablo. It'll be different. It'll be better maybe if they figure out how to do it.
What I think's crazy is that Scout's playing pretty well at the moment.
Yeah, now he is.
But like,
how do you play with Diablo and Lehens on the same team? That's what they're trying to figure out, and I don't think there is a good answer.
Guys, did Nongshim break Lehens?
No, Lehens hasn't changed. He's still just Lehens.
No, Lehens has played at like a much higher level than this. And I remember when we first had Nongshim, it was like, he was like young and he was like driving the team. And I feel like there's just I feel like there's just so many struggles right now. And it's like, the thing we talked about with DNS, like the weight of the losses, it feels like the weight of the losses is resting on this team. Like this also feels like a team where like the potential is insanely high.
Yeah, never happened to Nongshim before, has it?
Maybe just too much noodles.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe there's an MSG problem or something like that.
I don't know, man. We just saw Nongshim beat Bro, right? As this week, and it was good Lehens. It's you have Lehens that goes 0-9 or 9-0, and you had good Lehens that was a big part of that. So, I think the Diablo Taeyun trade is less about Diablo and Taeyun and more about the team for the Nongshim side, and then for BNK Fear X, I think it is more of Taeyun. That's why in those victories, Taeyun is getting the POMs. Like, he has been a standout performer for that squad multiple times, and when Vikla's selling his own item or flashing in the mid lane for no reason.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Taeyun's still finding a way to pump out damage. And
If we're talking swaps, if they swapped Vikla and Scout, man, BNK Fear X would be a team.
My God!
I think what I really feel about how we've gotten now that we've seen it for so long, right? Like at the beginning, I was kind of telling people, I told you so, like this wasn't the problem at Nongshim, but now that we've seen it, I think there have been glimpses of Nongshim being able to correctly peel forward and play around Diablo, but they haven't been able to do it consistently. Diablo's playstyle has not changed. Not even like 1 iota, not 1%. Like he and Kanavi both like ride or die, I'm gonna play like this, okay? Taeyun changed. He plays more reserved. He plays around what the team needs. Like when I'm watching Taeyun carry on Jhin, I'm like, that's not who I know. But he's playing well, he knows how to do it, and I think while Taeyun adapted, Diablo hasn't adapted at all. But that's okay if Nongshim fully adapt to play around him, but they've only done it some of the time. And so I find it some frustration because I feel like both Nongshim's potential and Diablo's potential are kind of locked because they haven't been able to tie that together as much as they should, and I think we all think they're capable of.
And I think it's interesting, right? Because I think AD carries, we think of them as these weapons, these tools, right? Like historically you had Uzi, for example, where it was like, feed the puppy. Like you give him enough gold, Uzi will carry the game for you. I just think that playstyle is kind of dead now.
You see glimpses of it from time to time.
You see glimpses, but I
was going to say aiming.
I know, but aiming's now on Kium DRX, and they just lost to Bro.
So they don't know how to do that. That's Kiwum doesn't know how to do that.
Pays is a good option, but Pays also like plays Zig sometimes. Like I think he is the best at carrying, but I think that he has a degree of flexibility.
Yeah, it's not a one-track meta.
And I think that like the reason Gumayusi won Finals MVP, why he got the opportunity to do so, was because his playstyle has always been so flexible at being able to not necessarily have to drive the car, if that makes sense. And I think like our players that just want to be hyper carries every single game, I think that's gone.
I was so worried that KT would feel Jiwoo when the trade happened. But then they didn't, and I was like, oh, maybe they could turn Fenrir into something really powerful here. Like this could be like a Fenrir stays with this team next year, and they build around this a little bit because I think he's got he's a very Diablo-esque, player where he plays that aggressive style. He plays like Smash, right? He's super aggressive. So the opposite though of how aiming plays, and so. You built your entire year around, we play through aiming this way, we play a lot more through perfect on top side, we play a lot through mid jungle because it's BDD cuz aiming sits on an island, and when effort came into the team, he was roaming, that's his whole thing, and it was great, and aiming sits there and farms, and he's stable. Fenrir can't do that, doesn't know how to do that, has to relearn how to play the game. KT can't switch their style fast enough. And Jiwoo is just budget aiming. He's just budget aiming, like he is the guy you leave on an island. He does get it done in the late game. You do give him the money. That's how he's played always. Everyone remembers that Smolder game. Everyone
But he's better at Neela.
Late game. Yeah, he does do that. But he's got the late game carry potential, but he's not as good at it as aiming, and he's definitely not as stable left alone in the bottom lane or in the mid lane as aiming was. And I know aiming gets a lot of flack for sometimes getting caught, sometimes getting picked in a really critical moment. But I feel like Jiwoo, that happens like 4x for him, and he doesn't get to those late games anymore, and he's in the Legend group now, which is much tougher opposition than he would have faced if he was in Rise, and he wasn't even the starter on QMDRX. And KT are just doomed. I actually think they can't. There's not enough time to figure out how to make Jiwoo or Fenrir work.
Or Ghost.
Or Ghost. Honestly, Ghost might even be a better choice because you could then at least.
Wait, is he swapped back yet? I was trying to like keep up with that. I haven't seen the swap back.
He's still 80 carry. He's still 80 carry.
I actually know another 80 carry they could try, who's often at LOL Park. What are you thinking, Digon?
Have you put your hat in the
I
ring
think
yet?
he may have missed the signing window.
I missed the signing window. That's what it was. Round 4. Yeah, that's it.
But I feel like no one is talking about this. KT are just like they boomed themselves. Like they're doomed. BDD and Aiming have a disagreement, and now it's like we can't fix the team. What are we gonna do? And I think there might be some regret because I think this team was really capable of doing a lot. And then they start having the fall off in mid and jungle more than anywhere else. And then something happened, we don't know. And now Aiming is gone, and now they just can't stabilize anywhere.
Well, I wonder if it's just a situation where KT were like, okay, by making this change, we've accepted that potentially playing in play-ins is a reality for us. And so we're going to use the rest of these games to figure it out.
The thing is, I feel like playing in play-ins is honestly kind of whatever, as Wolf kind of said before. But the real problem is that, like, if you're not in good form in play-ins, it's not something you're going to turn around in playoffs.
Yeah, I think like this team. I know they had a fall off when they were at the beginning of this split. They were actually just really good. Like they were our best team for a long time. They looked like they really figured it out with effort. Post Kespa Cup, it looked really good. Or sorry, post LCK Cup, it looked really good. And I think there was still some potential to get that back, like they did last year, where they went all the way to the World Finals. And now I'm just like, it's not happening. Forget like play-ins and playoffs. Like, what's your end goal? Your end goal is lifting an LCK trophy or lifting a Worlds trophy. Hopefully both, right? Is every team's goal. And I think now if you're like, well, maybe we could slide through, you're not going to make it. It's not going to happen if you can't figure out how to fix it. You can't just be like, well, he's fine. We're working on it. I think it's like, we're out of time.
Well,
Jiwoo's been around for a while. You can't just change his style.
I think it has to be Fenrir. If they're going to do anything, it has to be
100%
Fenrir, and
agree.
he has to figure it out.
He's still young. Like his style could still be molded, but there's still so little time.
But
Yeah.
I agree with that point. But remember, KT were fiddling around with their roster last year too in the bot lane. Was it Peter? Was it Wei? Who's starting? Was
Paduk?
it Paduk or was it Duck Dom? Right? They were doing the same thing, and it really wasn't until that qualification match that finally got them over the hump. And then all of a sudden, oh wow, we don't have to play the fourth place game. That's going to be T1 and DK, right? And that's what happened.
Yeah. Weird scenarios.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing to talk about here is Aiming now on Kirim DRX, which hasn't fully meshed. But I feel like, when you talk about top players and top rosters, there are some players who have a phenomenal impact and they look great, they look fantastic. But I think if you just drop them into a bottom of the table team, I don't think it would just change that team overnight. But I feel like if there was a player who I'm like, drop him in a lower ranked team, the whole team plays around him, they follow him around, they give him all the resources, it would be Aiming. I've said this on broadcast a few times. Aiming's playstyle often warps teams to be like funnel gold onto me. And I think for a team like Kirim DRX, which is sometimes a bit unsure on the direction, I think that is what you want. You just give your goal to Aiming, get to team fights. He will run circles around a lot of these Rise Group teams. That was my theory. That's what I was hoping would happen to really turn things around for this team. It hasn't really come to fruition. I think they're still figuring out how to do it. But like it's kind of like when you used to play rank 5s or like an online tournament like GoFlow or whatever, and you had one player who was just way higher elo than everyone else. And I'm like, guys, what are you playing? Well, we're going to play, let's say, Jinx, support. We're going to be, let's give it a Janna. Mid lane can be Lulu, top
Or
lane.
a Zillion if you're feeling
There
weird.
you go. Top lane, a bit of Shen. Jungle, doesn't matter, right? But Ivan is now in the game. It wasn't when I was talking about, but, and it's just like this was our main character. This was our main carry. And I imagine that's how they would incorporate Aiming into Kirim DRX.
And that's how Aiming plays. The rest of the team don't play like that. It's just so weird.
They're used to
Seeing
play with
Aiming-
Lazy Feel.
Aiming
Aiming
just does all of exactly the same stuff as he did with KT. He's in the same positions. It's like he doesn't know. It's like he's like just doesn't know.
On his settings, he's got all nameplates off, and he just hasn't. He's so
I don't
locked
think he
in.
ever had them on.
He's so locked in. He doesn't look left or right. He's just like,
He's a stallion with the blinders on,
damn, Effort's playing weird today.
I'll say, just as you said, Kiwoom's trying to learn how to play that style with him. Today, it was against Teddy. Teddy's Caitlyn. Remember on the top side of the map, Teddy's gets caught. And Andal's like, okay, I'm gonna hit him a couple times. All right, it's all you, aiming. I'm giving you
Frog
the kill.
walks away.
Frog walks away. It's like, Amy, this is you. And Teddy just, he uses heal to get one auto left. He goes E, trap, Q, combo, kills aiming. And then aiming gets the kill, but has to flash too. I was like, oh my God.
I'm just going to say, we didn't get to see the comms of that moment, but I can only imagine, and I know from my personal experience of the past, a situation like that happens, nightmare. It's not resolvable. You need to finish the game. You're still arguing. Then you speak to the coaching staff, and they're like, guys, come on, lock in. It's like, it's such a tilter.
So they're trying. It's just might take too long.
Yeah. I want to move on though.
All right.
I think that's enough swappy trade because now we have to get into the meat and/or potatoes of today's episode. I know that we've been here for a little while already. I hope you've enjoyed the content so far, but this is what we really wanted to talk about. This is something that we need to apologize for. You know, we're supposed to be super smart people, you know, that know everything.
I mean, Atlas and I we kind of were. But everybody else needs to apologize.
Hooney needs to apologize.
I need a little bit of time to get back into the swing of
My
things.
God.
My first week was not so great. But obviously, we're talking about predictions. At least we're doing better as a group than the Korean side. The Korean first week was horrendous. They didn't, I think with all of the predictors combined, they didn't make 10 correct predictions. At all.
I think, honestly, what they should do for next week is just have one person, if everyone's on the same page, one person do the exact opposite.
Yeah, just cover the bases.
Yeah.
They at least get one person.
Yeah, ride the average.
Yeah.
You got to ride the average a little bit because it was not working out. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at our predictions from weeks 10 to 12 and basically just try to justify how terrible they have been. And so basically, was there one match that was especially difficult to predict, and what made it difficult, and where did it all go wrong? And I think a whole lot of this has to do with, team form and stuff like that over time. But it should never be this mental,
No.
It should never be this out of control.
Little thing to say, you flip a coin, you should average 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I flipped a crap coin first week.
I didn't flip a coin. I just chose what I thought was right and did not accept
So what
50%. Actually, it did end up evening out to 50% of the time was right.
What you're saying is it's the teams who are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to just play like they were playing before.
No one hit 50% on the first week back from MSI.
Yeah.
It was the most that someone got was 4 out of 10.
The average was 3 out of 10.
Well,
That was me. I was the average. My bad.
Yeah, I was also the average.
guys, I think, okay, let's address some of them. Yeah. So KT won both their series. And I think after seeing, HLE win MSI, and I think we couldn't have come back and just expected that KT would dominate round 3 to 4, and they didn't. But why did they go 2-0 in this week? It's like they just didn't mess with us.
Yeah. And then they went on to just be we just had a huge conversation about how they're doomed forever. Why? Why did you have to do this?
So KT played abysmally in week 9. Okay, it was not good. And then we move into week 10, and everyone's like, well, of course T1 will beat them. Yeah. KT look bad. KT, of course, win. But T1 were looking a little shaky, okay, themselves. They were having some issues. So people thought, okay, well, Gen G will beat T1 because Gen G is looking a lot better. No! They lose to T1 who lost to KT in the same week.
I think
KT then beat Hanwha Okay.
Yeah, I think okay. So the thing with predictions, we do them at the start of the week. So things change during the week, and it's like you can't adjust them, and that's why it can be really hard to get 10 out of 10 because like you see a team, you see like KT beat T1 on day one, and you can't adjust your later predictions. But I genuinely think if you actually adjusted your later predictions on that week, you still would. It wouldn't have mattered.
it wouldn't have mattered.
It wouldn't have. It just.
There is no way I'm like, I see KT win a telecom war and I'm like, oh yeah, definitely going to beat Hanwha. That has never happened.
There's like no consistent through line, I feel like, when it comes to this, because, like,
Be quiet, Siri. I'm not talking to you right now. I'm not texting John about my predictions. I don't know what Ox triggered, but his whole rant was in a drafted text message to John.
Yeah, I think, week 10, there's no world where I would think the Bros would lose to 1 in 19 or 1 in 18. Yeah, 1 in 19 at the point?
1 in 18.
1 in 18.
No one
The DN
beats
Automotive Supers.
The DN Automotive Supers
19 times.
in a
That's
row.
what it was. Yes. And that, I don't think you could have predicted that. The KT thing you already hit.
That was before they started popping off in Kespa Cup as well. Like, they were not doing that well elsewhere to make it seem like this was going to be the case.
And my biggest regret was not joining Wolf on the Genji versus DK. Because that one I was umming and ahhing about, and there is definite justification for why you'd think DK were better, because EWC had literally just happened. But I just felt like DK often disappoint, and I just kind of predicted for that instead.
Well, I think that was the other one with Hanwha and DK. It was like you have MSI champion, you have EWC champion. It's not about which tournament was harder to win. I think that one's clear. I think it was more of hey, one was more recent than the other. Do you believe in recency's form here?
I feel like one that really bothers me, and I know it's a KT pred, so you can never really, I kind of deserve this, but KT 2-0 week 10, Genji 0-2 week 10, and again, it's Legend Group, so it's not like the teams they're facing are similar. And so week 11, logically, I'm like, well, KT, you're going to read Genji, right? No, obviously not.
So T1 beat D+ in very unceremonious fashion, which only Ox and Woodid predicted in week 11. And then everyone's like, well, they'll do it again. They did not do it again. Only Atlas predicted D+ to win that time around.
At least you were consistent, Max.
Yeah.
You predicted them
No,
both times.
I learned from my mistake in week 10.
Yes.
I'm like, I will not do that again. And I made the right call, which, if you remember back to the broadcast, I did not remember and thought that I'd predicted T1 up until the very end. And then everyone's like, by the way, Atlas did this right.
What
I'm
a
like,
genius.
Yeah, totally. And I've got a good reason. Did not, actually, at all.
It was very honest of you to out yourself.
Yeah, I really could have probably just said that, yeah, I'm a genius, just knew all along. But
Also, we have to kind of factor in that the DNS just started
Winning.
popping off.
Any Kespa Cup knowers who predicted them twice this week? It seems to be only one person who...
I mean, I was a Kesper Cup Noah, but I was not an LCK believer.
It's Wolf, by the way. That's why Wolf said that.
Oh, right, that's why. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, no, I should have.
Yeah, no, I was the only one who predicted them twice.
You did.
I was very confident about it until I showed up to work today, and then I was like, well, we'll see. After watching the early game, I was a little concerned. They did win, though.
I think as well, another factor is that when we're in the earlier portions, round 1 and round 2, there's so many matchups with such a humongous disparity that they kind of freeze. I remember we had that one week where everyone was on track to get 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And it was well,
Well,
obviously-
only I did. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I'm just trying to pick up where Chronicle left off.
No, I appreciate the energy. It's like you're still here.
This week as well. You almost did the back-to-back.
But
I did do back-to-back, but I didn't do back-to-back.
the thing is, what we should expect from Legend Rise is that there is more variance because the teams are close together. Now, obviously, last year, Legend Group was kind of a wash in terms of, it was just tier list for 97% of it.
Yeah.
Rise Group was, who even knows? But here, we've had just people beating people. Just it's hard to really say.
Yeah, there's it's almost like anyone can win on any given day.
Exactly.
It's actually just ridiculous.
And it feels super close, which I think just makes it so difficult. Because, I mean, the truth is, League of Legends is pretty high variance. You end up getting
Everyone
these big
starts
upsets.
with a nexus that can be exploded.
Everyone starts on track for a perfect game.
Interestingly, there were
True.
four predictions that everyone got right across these 3 weeks. It was DNS versus BNK. Everyone thought DNS on the low, BNK looking good. Then we had D plus versus KT. Yeah, everyone was like, I don't trust KT. They look pretty rough right now. That one both times in a row were correct. And then there's actually another BNK versus QMDRX, so there's 5 actually. So BNK versus QMDRX unanimously, everyone got that one right. And then HLE versus KT, we were like, yeah, also still don't trust KT, which ended up pushing us, at least for KT, back into the tier list conversation Ox was talking about. It's just that there's only 2 tiers. There's playoffs teams and play-in teams, and KT's in the play-in.
Yeah, but the problem is even just the fact that we had week 10, just because like we never had that in last year's Legend Group.
This is like the worst ever.
No, but what I mean is like week 10 in terms of KT did well and then fell off. Whereas obviously Legend Group last time was just KT and Nongshim just getting beaten down on the entire time until they got one little upset at the end.
Well, I think that's what's made this year so amazing. The parity has been very obvious, not only domestically here in the LCK, but globally, right? That's why
The
for
Gap
Stan
is the biggest loser this year.
Yes.
That's
I
what
think
like
it's just
to
really cool that we figured out how to clone the Rise Group and just bring the energy into the Legend Group. Because, like, let's be real, last year, we all loved the Rise Group.
It was great.
We actually did bring a lot of Rise Group vibes to everything. I feel like that did happen. I think it's kind of beautiful.
Someone in the chat did ask, what is Tempo Vibes today? Today.
We didn't even mention it. They just.
I think I said it one
He
time
said it once,
today.
yeah.
I said it one time today.
I love how it's just so normalized in the vernacular that I just don't even. I'm like, yeah, of course.
Obviously, it's the tempo vibes. I mean, it's in the instruction booklet for League of Legends.
What is our Fries group name? You know, Rise Fries. What's our Fries group name for Legend Group?
Frog legging group, like it's frog legs. Put the frog legend in the bag.
The
flangle.
The flangle from Orcs today was fantastic. That's, by the way, the technical term for a flank angle. Yeah. If you don't have enough time for 2 words.
Maybe chat, or sorry, not chat. Well, chat also, but comments can let us know.
Chat, are we capping right
Maybe
now?
comments have a
Legend
good
group
idea about a legend group food to put in the bag.
Yeah.
Legumes.
Yeah.
But it could also just be like a really high quality food that isn't like it's something that's really fancy that you eat, but it's not actually high quality.
I don't know why a pasta has to be. It's not it's just linguine, but you know.
Like caviar. I mean, when you think about caviar, it's very fancy, but it's actually quite a simple.
Wait. Does it, because it's legend? Nah, I don't think it works.
No, come on, man.
I was thinking legendary, and then you have dairy.
Oh, the legendary farmers.
Yeah?
So we have cheese, milk,
Getting that cheese.
Yogurt.
yogurt.
Oh, because they're cultured, and so is yogurt.
Oh my god.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
That was this is my fault. I do.
All
right.
Okay, the legendaries. The legendaries. Let's just call them legendaries because they're cultured like yogurt.
And you know, if you watch the Pog State, you'll get it. No one else will. And it's not. That's the best part about the LCK, being in on the joke.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not going to explain it ever again.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to.
I'm not even sure I could.
Yeah, no. And I'm not even sure I'll remember.
He's not sure he's gonna remember this tomorrow. Yeah.
It's generally how it goes. We did get better though, right? Maybe not Hooney. But like everyone kind of improved moving in.
Do you know what's the weird? So Hooney came back late after his military service. So like, this is a bigger portion of his total predictions, and he did so bad. So
He got enough right to make one perfect week though.
Yeah, but the thing is, just like, cause how many weeks did you will know this, Tegan? How many weeks did he miss?
Before he came back.
4, I'm being told. Just the
your
number came to me.
The first round. You missed the first round.
So like he missed that chunk, which means when you'll have to look at the average per week, and this is just going to tank his average so much harder than everyone else.
True.
You know what? Maybe we have to fire Hooney. I'm sorry. I really like having him around, but this is just unacceptable.
I mean, if that's what you need to get fired, then the whole Korean broadcast are going to get fired, man.
After that week 10 prediction, yeah, it's pretty rough.
Oh, it was so funny though, because it was so strange, just such a weird week. Because I thought that like we were going to be really embarrassed by the predictions of the Korean like group. Like that's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna walk past like Pony in the hallway, and he's gonna refuse to talk to me, and like normally we talk about like Honkai Star Rail and stuff together and stuff like that, but like he's gonna look at me, he's like, you're beneath me now, Atlas, you pathetic failure of a predictor. And I'd have to like just tuck my tail between my legs, accept my fate that I'm just never gonna be friends with him ever again. And then they were terrible! They were way worse than us!
They were worse.
Oh yeah, I gave him so much crap. I haven't looked him in the eye since. Apart from, all the times
Pony
I
and I
spoke
had
to
a moment in the hallway where we were like, DNS predictors. We're on top now.
He got back on the horse. He did. After that week 10, he definitely turned that ship around. But man, it was such a weird time. Just a really weird moment. And I guess there were a lot of tells, right, with the fact that KT and...
I got the update that Digon is the same as Hooney.
Let's fire Hooney first, and then let's just see. Sorry, Hooney.
Digon has the sample size advantage.
How is Digon the same as Hooney? Because Hooney has 424, which is...
No, overall.
Oh, overall?
Is that really?
That means that basically what we have learned is that Digon has been pretty bad all year long.
No. I've been pretty bad during this second half.
And Hooney has been high variance bad.
So currently,
Brutal.
78 out of 120 is Digon versus 52 out of 80 for Hooney.
Brutal. Believing in.
Am I still winning? I'm still winning. Okay, cool. I really care about predictions like
Am
Chronicle
I
did.
equal
So
with Valdez?
Is Chronicler
That's
still...
what I need to know.
Is Chronicler still perfect?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he actually has more than what's been played.
Yeah, you got bonus. There was like extra credit.
yeah, we don't do challengers predictions, but he's like, I'm actually 92%.
No, 102%.
With an 8% margin for error.
Oh, you're
wait,
smacking him.
I'm smacking Valdez? Well, that's not fair. Oh, need to fix that. Because the play-by-play's got to stick together on the prediction sheet.
Well, I hope that he goes up to you and so you go down to him.
Yeah, true. Although, why did he not predict? Because mine's out of 120 and his is out of 80.
those were the other ones.
Ah,
But
okay.
imagine if you were like, I'm going to tank my score to catch up with Brendan, and then you just got them all right and just...
Oh, no,
You're like, you know what?
because we're now.
I'm
and
gonna
it's
pred
dumb.
KT for the last week, double KT win, and you just skyrocket the
It's all about, like, I need to make sure that I see Brendan's preds first so that I can just do the opposites or something like that.
I should do that with Digon spreads.
Yeah, honestly, we all should. Genius.
Yeah, so actually, week 12, Digon got 5 out of 10. So if I just did the opposite, I would have... Oh.
Oh man, I must be getting sleepy. I was not up with that one until the very end. That's a big failure. We do have one last thing to talk about, and that is where these standings are sitting.
That was a weird way to say that. Yeah. Where these sittings are standing.
Let's let people peer behind the curtain for a moment about what the process is
Okay.
when we're doing our predictions.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we're looking at the final week and the matchups that we have to look forward to. And based on the ridiculous garbage that's been happening throughout this entire round robin or two, what the hell are we going to do about this? And who do we think is going to win all of these games? And does Atlas predict DK for both of them? And I'm so scared. Because do we think that Gen G are back completely? Do you trust them? That's the way that I'm thinking about it's trust level for each of the teams. How much do you trust that they're going to win against the teams below them and lose against the teams that are above them?
I do think that is how it works.
No. What I'm saying is, there's a lot of variance. There's a lot of teams that, like DNS, for example, are just constantly beating teams that are above them.
Okay.
Because they are only teams that
I
are
thought you were
above
just
them.
trying to define, by the way, I mean they need to kill 2 out of the 3 Nexi in the series itself, and then if I think they can do that, I might predict them.
No, it's does the tier list based on the standings actually?
That's how you predict.
Yeah, I think Gen G look pretty back, on a 4-win streak, but they do face D+.
And Hanwha. Oh, wait, no.
No, and KT. So there's
I mean, it should be a freebie week, but do they
no,
think
no,
it's a
the
freebie
D+
week and therefore lose?
D+ is not the freebie week. D+ I feel like is the only team right now who I'm actually, even though Gen G is looking back, I'm like, I don't know, D+ they kind of go hard. So
Backer?
that Saturday showdown will
That is a banger Saturday showdown.
It is a banger Saturday
We've had
showdown.
some doozies in the past.
I mean,
that is a banger.
Those last 4 games, D plus Gen G, DNS in their current form, and Kiwoom, who is currently in 9th, then Hanwha T1 and B&K Nongshim, based on what Kiwoom does earlier this week.
Oh, this is
like
a
all of
this
those.
is a 2 and 10 week, 100%.
Yeah.
You like 2 out of 10. Like it's going to be so hard to predict these games.
No, I think that's the thing is because it's hard to predict. It's not going to be 2 out of 10 because you'll go one way or the other. I think when it's easy to
That's generally
predict,
what you do.
but the teams are wrong, that's when you get 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, oh, it's definitely like that's what happened on the Korean side. They were like, oh, these are all the obvious results, and then it just wasn't any of those. That's when you get a 2 out of 10.
And when's Nongshim going to come back? Because I've been predicting for it.
Me too.
This whole time,
Getting
thinking
crushed.
because I thought that they looked kind of okay at the beginning of this round robin during the Kesper Cup. Like, there's a reason why they're going to Daejeon like on Monday, tomorrow.
I think based
today.
on this sheet of paper we've been presented,
Today.
and like it's confidence based on standings, I feel like D plus are looking better than their position sizably.
Yep.
Gen G are looking around first, maybe that's a left first, second.
There's a 3-loss streak next to T1's name.
Yeah, I think it's like
That's crazy.
right now I'm feeling Gen G, D plus, HLE, T1,
I'm giving an 8 to Gen G as far as the confidence.
KT.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of suspense there.
I put on the DNS for 10th. I put yes.
Yes, they are. 10.
Do we?
They are 14 series or 14 games behind
But-
Kiwoom.
I'm giving DNS a 1 because they can only beat teams that are above them, and I think they're going to win a game or 2.
But that's the thing. My question is, right? If DNS were in play-ins, are they in the form to win Worlds? And I'm kind of.
You did show us how that's going to happen.
Yeah, and they.
I will predict right now that they're going to win Kesper Cup. Regardless
Wait, no,
of
but we don't know the
T1
rosters
roster,
yet.
I think they're going to win. Regardless.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm predicting it. I'm putting it out there.
So basically,
This man.
and they are the reigning world champions, 3 times in a row.
yes?
So what we're saying is,
We don't know what the weather's going to be tomorrow.
they should have a wild card slot at Worlds, and DNS would just come in and win the whole thing.
You shouldn't have laughed, and I would have been able to keep it together. Dang it. Yeah, I think that prediction's a little bit off the wall if they don't bring their challenger roster. Talking about T1, of course.
I don't know. They beat
confidence
Gen G in Kesper Cup
Is Gen G...
with their main roster.
So, who is actually in the... I know I'm about to cast it tomorrow, but... Kesper Cup-
Nongshim is waiting in the final.
Yeah, Nongshim
So
is
it's
waiting
it's
in the
T1
final.
and Nongshim. So if you beat honestly, I feel like if you beat T1's main roster, you definitely beat Nongshim. But if you beat T1's challengers roster, you probably beat Nongshim right now. So honestly, like I think DNS's challenge team might beat Nongshim. No, I'm being a bit facetious, but anyway, this is not about the Kesper Cup, and the Kesper Cup results will already exist probably when this episode is released. So you guys will call me silly or a savant if you want.
So, HLE and T1 are like basically in the same spot, but HLE are technically second.
All right, here's if we cut this in half, right, and just talk about legend groups for a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a simpler way to think or to write like from 1 to 5 here, like what team we think is the best, second best, third best, and fourth and fifth best.
Yeah. Ah, that's
That might be an
I
easier
think
way
it's
to
good that you
simplify
say
this.
split it in half because I don't know where I'd place KT if we kept them combined. I don't know if they're fifth.
Yeah, that is a tough one.
I think DNS are better than them right now.
I'm putting like Gen G at 1, DK at 2.
Yep. HLE 3, T1 4, KT 5.
Can we
18 and
put
9.
both T1 and HLE at 3.5? That's what I want to do.
T1 has 3L though, so.
Brutal.
Is Genji as good as we think they are?
How good do we think they are?
I think they're
I think they look pretty
they're-
good.
yeah. I think they're the second most informed team to D plus.
I think
they're better than D+.
I think the standard we normally have for Gen G is so high. And the one concern I have is so many teams in our league level up when it comes to playoffs. Gen G were just kind of always good.
Yeah.
So, like, when T1 they're 3L right now, right? 3-loss streak. They're going to hit playoffs. They're going to be T1, right? We know they're going to level up. But Gen G have always just been like, we're the best team. We got to playoffs. Oh, look, we're still the best team. And then we had that upset last year, obviously. But like, it's not like that leveling up process. And I feel like they still, if everyone else levels up and they don't, I think there's still issues. Even in the series we had today, people were getting caught out for no reason. And it kind of required big plays to still win them
That's
the game.
what I'm saying. Like, Chovy didn't have the greatest start in that game, in the series, right? And obviously ended up getting POM later on, which I didn't necessarily agree with. But anyway,
Just for
when
sport.
Chovy doesn't perform well, then the team doesn't necessarily pick up the slack. When Ruler is not performing well, it feels like it almost puts more pressure on Chovy, and he has to have like the best day ever in order to get them over the line. I just look at D+, and I feel like there are very few times where I feel like that's true. I feel like the whole team plays well as a unit. Nobody has to pick the team up by their bootstraps and get them in there. It's like a whole team thing every time. Whereas for Gen G, it's like, okay, thankfully Duro made the sick play and we're still alive here. Because that series could have gone very differently today. And so even though it says 4W, like when you contextualize the wins, like, on one hand, I want to say I think D+ is the best right now. But then you have to think, well, Chovy does just carry the team when he needs to, so maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he's just not going to be in bad form. Maybe he's not going to have any off days, and they still will win. But if I was rating like an average across like all 5 players in terms of individual performance, I would 1,000% pick D+. But if I am just saying like who's gonna, if it doesn't matter where one player is playing, if Keen's having an off day, if Canyon's having an off day, and Chovy still carries, then like Gen G is probably the best. But it's really tricky for me to say definitively right now, especially considering, especially in the direct matchup that they have this week, D+ won the last 2 times.
And D+ could actually make it to second place if they win their next 2 games. Even if they lose to Gen G, I think they can still. Oh no, it'll be hard with HLE.
Yeah, if they lose to Gen G, they can't make second. But
Yeah.
they can make third potentially. But T1 is playing KT, so you would think they would win
They'd
that.
be able to win that.
Yeah.
Yeah, D+ will need some help from KT.
Also, actually, HLE are playing T1, so one of HLE and T1 are definitely getting an extra series win.
And then that way, like, KT would have to win the Telecom War if.
Yeah. For
So
them.
DK, but if DK win both, they can just hit second place.
No, because if DK...
Like if they beat Gen G as well.
But if
they can make
DK
it
win
18.
both, and then T1 win both,
When there's
they
been
would still be third.
when there's been weeks like this where it's a non T1 or Gen G kind of like needing to have a tough week and prove it. So when I'm thinking of like, I'll go all the way back when Hanjin Brion rifled off like 4 wins in a row, and then it was like, okay, you have tough teams, they got slapped. When KT were 8-0, like that was the last time where it actually happened, and then it's like, okay, you have to play Hanwha, they got slapped, and then started their down streak. So D+ now being in the position to do that against the class, the top 3 in terms of Hanwha and Gen G, and I consider T1 in that as well, it hasn't normally gone well for that underdog squad against the big team. But so I think if Gen G do this, that'll be a massive statement. But going against like recent history of when you have a tough schedule like this, needing to do that. So
I don't. There's something about D+ where they either win together or they lose together. Remember when they failed to adapt a little bit last time around? Was it last week where they lost pretty miserably?
to T1.
To T1. It was like they very clearly had a read going into that series, and it was wrong, and they lost. But it wasn't like one player's fault. Yeah. Like this is not a weak link team, because I think Gen G overcomes weak links very often. It's a bad game for Rua, it's a bad game from Canyon, but it doesn't matter.
I don't know. I feel like DK actually patch holes better. I think that's what it is. Like Gen G they're like the lizard that loses the tail. Like the tail is just gone. But like DK pick up the tail and stick it back on with a Band-Aid or some blue tack, something like that. Like Shiu goes 0-7. Like they're still playing with Shiu.
It's been a while since that's happened, but
that was EWC. Literally happened at EWC. That was like 2 weeks ago, or whatever, 3 weeks, whatever the time. That was relatively recently. Like I feel like they have been able to like have these rough times where like someone doesn't necessarily find a good performance, but still they manage to make them useful and get back into games. Like I think they're good at absorbing pressure as a team.
I guess what maybe after thinking about all this a lot, I want to predict that D+ will do it. I feel like in my heart, I feel like they will do it. You know, like I feel like I'm thinking.
I think that's the point where they're definitely not.
I feel like they can and will do it.
I feel like you're kissing them.
Yeah.
But I can't. It's really difficult to. And I'm not making my official prediction right now for D+ and Gen G, but I feel like Gen G are supposed to win. You know what I mean? Like if they lose this, what does it mean? Like, does it mean they don't win LCK? Does it mean they might have another rough Worlds if it's Keen's last year, et cetera, et cetera? Like, I feel like this series is really important. Like, really, really important. Like Degon's saying, like, it's a statement here for whoever takes that win. And if for D+ to win, if D+ win both, they become LCK favorites to win the whole thing, right? Like, if they beat Hanwha and Gen G in the same week, it's like, this team, we have to actually sell. It doesn't matter what it says in these standings. We have to say D+ are the favorites to win this tournament.
I think the thing is, if D+ win against Gen G or lose against them, I mean, it's always hard with D+, how much to trust them, but I feel like even if they lose, they'll be able to come back from it and bounce back and reflect. But
That's what they've been much better at this year.
kind of my point with Gen G is, like, to me, Gen G has been that consistent at the top, continuous, and something they've often struggled with is bouncing back. I mean, you think it took so long to bounce back after first stand. Often, like, when things go a bit rough at Worlds, unlike T1, who are very good at reflecting on what their struggles are in the meta, it feels like Gen G have struggled to do that. And I think, like, if Gen G lose to D+, and they're not the best team in the league, are they going to be able to turn it around and become the best team in the league in time for playoffs? And I don't know.
Well, one thing you can trust is the fact that Career trusts CV Max. Did you guys see the video of him jumping into CV Max's arms at the T1 home ground? Like, they won, and it's like, it's a video smash being like, oh, he's like wiping his hair. And then out of nowhere, Career comes into the frame and jumps into CV Max, and he just catches him, and CV Max is carrying him like a baby, like a big baby. And they like bounce up twice, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy, because so many times when we see those kind of interactions, it's like, okay, we're gonna have to trust that the player's trusting CV Max, who's educating him right now. In this case, it was very clear.
How many teams have done trust falls? That's my question. Okay,
It's a good point.
you know, if you're like a coach or a manager, you get the new roster at the start of the year. It's like, guys, day one, get off the computers. We're doing trust falls.
Yeah.
And maybe that happened in some teams. And I don't know, maybe a certain 80 carry didn't catch a certain mid laner, and that's why he got punted.
I knew you were going there, and I'm so glad you did.
And now it's like, okay, Andal, are you ready? And, you know, Andal's a little small.
This conversation has made me feel like I'm ultimately going to put Gen G in first. And I have D+ in second. The last time I felt this way, though, about this situation with Gen G and D+ was at EWC, where I said I feel like D+ is going to win this tournament, but didn't officially predict that to be the case, right? I said I feel like they're going to win this tournament, but they shouldn't, and I'm not going to predict it. And so, like, that's what I'm going to do for my how confident about this, like, where are these teams in the standings, is like, D+ is not the best team, but they could be. Isn't that, like, the simplest way to put it, I suppose?
Yeah.
What if they are? Like, how cool is that? That's kind
And
of where
also,
I'm
what
at.
does it mean for the LCK? Like, that's the crazy part. Is like, is D+ Gear actually like the best team that we have?
It's been 5 years since they have been, and obviously 5 years ago, they were easily the best team, and it was we wouldn't even have a Pog state like this about.
Yeah, but also this is the same team that, like, literally before MSI was just like a complete like disaster, like lack of consistency, not being able to figure it out, huge slumps, and then not being able to like correct anything. And now it's like they're learning how to turn on a dime. Their understanding of the meta is so much better. Like CV Max, even like a lot of his drafts, he's been able to pivot from like when he used to just be so stubborn.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't drafted Talia Pantheon like for the entire series. It's almost like there's something preventing that from being possible.
And on that note,
Yeah, that was a good to do it, I'm not gonna lie. We could do this for the Rise group as well. but we're not because it's not predictable. It's just not the way that the Rise group
We don't
works.
have 3 more hours.
Yeah, actually, well, we could just flip a whole bunch of coins, but you don't want to watch us just flipping a bunch of coins, and the table isn't mic'd up.
I've
so we
written
can get
in
the
for
funny
DNS
thing.
2027 World Champs.
That's beautiful. Hopefully that rings true for next year. But this isn't next year's Pog State. This is this year's Pog State. So that will do it for today. Do you agree with where our power levels, where things are going as far as the top side of this? Because if we're all saying that D plus Kia are the best team in the LCK, then we might sound insane to you, who are perhaps, expecting your teams to bounce back if they are perhaps a T1 or a Humble Life Esports. Right now, not necessarily demonstrating it. We'll see whether they will in the final week of the LCK. But thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week for the final regular season week of the LCK, or on the next episode of the Pog State, whenever that will be. But for now, bye-bye.